This is a hell of an inaugural show we got going here.
I don't know what's going on. Okay, so back to the show then, right? So the point of this was Dear Brother with Alex and Mark is brought to you by absolutely no one. I live in Colorado. I live in the foothills of Denver, about 45 minutes to an hour outside of Denver, depending upon how you measure, at about 8,500 feet in a small home on 10 acres of land by myself with 2 cats. Now you go.
I live on Long Island, about an hour to 45 minutes outside of New York City, depending on how you go. In a split ranch with my wife, 2 kids, my mother, 2 dogs, and a cat.
The cat's still around, eh?
No, this is a new cat.
Oh.
The other cat died 4 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, no.
Okay. And so we're at now 9.5 years or so ago, I moved from Long Island to Colorado.
Yeah, and I stayed like an idiot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I tried to get you to go out here.
You did. You did, and I didn't. I made a mistake.
Well,
I didn't take you up on the offer. I completely forgot when you sent me those the snippets of our instant chats, whatever the hell they're called.
Yes.
I completely forgot that you had offered to pay for me to go out to Colorado when you went out for your initial trip.
Yes, I had gone backpacking.
That was in 2009, and I turned you down because that was the year I got married, and I said I can't possibly go on vacation before I get married. And I should have.
So in 2009, I went to Colorado to go backpacking with a mutual friend. And it was a test for me. It was a test to see whether or not I liked Colorado, because I had been planning to leave New York for about a year by that time. And in my plans to leave New York, I had thought of many places to live, and one of those places was Colorado. And I thought, all right, well, let me go there and see what it's like and see if I can, jive my theory and my research with reality, and I absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. It was a nice little city. Everything was nearby. There were mountains. There were lakes. Not a lot, but there were lakes. There was hiking. There was biking. There was anything you could think of. You could do outdoors. You could do outdoors. The cost of living was low, etc., etc. And I tried to convince you to come with me on this trip, and you refused.
I did.
And I offered to pay for your flight, and you refused.
You did.
And I offered to pay for your hotel, and
you did.
You refused. And inevitably, I went anyway, and you did not.
Correct. And here we are.
And here we are. And 2 years after that, I moved to Colorado. I quit my job. And I drove to Colorado.
Yeah.
And how many times have I tried to convince you to move to Colorado since?
I can't even count. Think? Numerous. We'll just say that.
I've gotten you jobs, turned them down.
Well, that's not true.
What do you mean?
I never turned anything down. They just never panned out to anything.
I suppose the thing. Okay.
Yeah. Paint me to be the villain here.
No, I mean I can't. Well, you are the villain here.
Yeah, but not for that reason.
Okay, fair enough. Well, anyway, so that was what did we hit? We hit 2009 there, right?
2009. Then 2011 was when you left, and that year I had my first kid.
And then you bought a house like right away, didn't you?
Yeah, we sold the house in Queens and brought out here. That was when I moved, out to Long Island.
Mm-hmm. It was a hell of a year. A lot happened.
It was a hell of a year.
I always felt guilty that I couldn't help you with your new house.
Bah, there's nothing to help.
Still.
Nah.
It's the job.
It's all right. Things happen.
Helped Phil move, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, he did.
Didn't help you move. I kind of feel bad about that.
I didn't help you move. That makes you feel better.
No, it doesn't, actually.
All right. Well, it should. Now we're even.
All right. Well, that was easy. Yeah, and so between 2003-ish and 2009, we worked at the same place.
We did. I'm still there.
When did you start working there?
2001. So I'm on year 19 going on 20.
Jesus.
Yeah. I should be studied by a team of men in white lab coats.
That's a hell of a commitment you made there to that company.
Yeah, I know. Again, one of the many things I question my life choices. We had some
and I
good
started
times.
working there. Oh, we had excellent times. I started working there in 2003, and so you were what, 2 years in at that point, roughly, and we fast became friends.
That's not true.
What do you mean?
I didn't like you at first.
All right. Well, okay. So what's your timeline? Because the blackout happened in 2003, and
that was
I'm
about.
pretty sure we felt
that was about when. But when you
that was August.
That was August.
That was only a few months after
the first few months I found you annoying.
Fair enough. Well, I was going with fast became friends because it was like, we started working together, like actually, and then within, a few weeks of working together, we became friends.
Fair enough.
Because I don't think we didn't work together the first couple of months.
No, it was that place on 69th Street. I don't want to say the name, but yeah,
69th and Lexington.
Yeah,
that was our first official job together.
Yeah. That's where we thought we caused the blackout.
We thought we caused the blackout. Yeah, that's a fine story.
Yeah,
let's tell that story. You start.
We were hanging. What was it? One of the first 65-inch TVs, plasma TVs out there. Fujitsu.
It might have actually been the first one ever, from what I remember.
I remember it was a ridiculous amount of money, like $25,000, something stupid.
If not more, yeah.
And we had just figured out, we had just gotten it up on a big bracket, a big swinging bracket. This thing weighed, I don't know, 200 pounds? Easily, right?
Yeah, and just as a precursor, there was a whole system that we installed prior to that.
Yeah.
Right, so like we had a whole AV system that got installed, and the TV was the last thing to go up.
Right.
Okay.
So we got the TV up, and we plugged it into the wall, got all our connections done, ready to test, all excited, and I don't remember if you were holding the remote, I was holding the remote. I think it was you.
No, you were. If I remember correctly, it was close to the end of the day. It was like around 3-ish in the afternoon, something like that, 3:30. And we had done everything we needed to do, and all we needed to do was just do a final test of the system before we could leave for the day.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying, I'm going to test it. And either you said, go get the van, or I said, I'll go get the van. Whatever it was, I was going to go get the van, and you were going to test the system. And I remember that you pushed the button, and the TV turned on and immediately off.
That I remember.
And I remember as this was happening, I was leaving to go to the front door, and I walked by a laptop that was plugged in that made a beep sound at the same time. And we thought that we caused the power to go out. We thought we blew a breaker.
Yeah.
That's what I remember thinking. Like, whatever we did, we blew a breaker.
Yeah, that I remember. We were looking for the breaker panel left and right like crazy.
In the basement.
In the basement. When did we realize that the power was out to the entire house?
Well, so
or were we that stupid?
No, because I remember we checked the breaker panel. We determined that we didn't flip a breaker, and then I don't know if you or I had decided to look at the electric meter that was at the near the breaker panel, and we determined that that was not running.
Oh, it definitely would have been.
So we went outside like you do in a blackout, because what else do you do on the inside of a house when the power's out?
And that's what everyone was doing, the exact same thing, going outside and just looking at their houses. I remember that. Everyone's just kind of looking at their buildings going,
yeah,
what the fuck?
Yeah. You walk outside and you look back and you go, is it really out? Is it out for you?
Yeah.
How about over the... And so all of New York City started doing the exact same thing at the exact same time. And I remember saying to you something like you look down that way and I'll look down this way, see if you see the traffic lights.
Yeah.
And we were pretty close to Lexington, and so there was no lights on at Lexington, and there were no lights on the other direction. And so we walked to the corner, and that's, I think, when we realized that the power was out in our area.
Yeah.
Like, that was what we knew. Like, okay, there's a blackout.
Yeah, little did we know it was quite the blackout.
It was the entire Northeast, pretty much.
Yeah. What I remember is how the city, like that whole area, just immediately became gridlocked.
Yes.
It was like literally within 10, 15 minutes of it happening, it was just sheer chaos.
I don't even think it was that long. I want to say within a couple of minutes, without traffic lights anywhere. Holy shit.
Because I remember we thought, well, we got to get the hell out of here, and then it was like, we're not going anywhere.
Well, I think... I'm starting to like not remember the sequence of events. I do recall it took us a while to realize what had actually happened, because I remember we had tried making a phone call on our cell phones, and we got the all circuits are busy message,
right,
which freaked us out.
Yeah.
Because the last time that happened, it was bad news.
Yeah.
And then I went to a payphone, which were things that existed still at the time.
Wow, yeah.
And I remember trying to call, and it was just a busy signal. Nothing. It was dead. So no phone calls were getting through. And it took us a while to figure out the size of the blackout.
Well, we didn't figure it out until we went to the van and put on 1010 winds.
Did it take us that long to realize?
Well, we knew there was something bad going on, but we didn't know the scale of it. We knew that the city had lost power, or at least our area in the city had lost power. We just didn't know that it was pretty much the whole Northeast.
The whole thing. So I recall that we only had a quarter tank of gas in the van.
Yeah.
And we decided amongst ourselves that because of the amount of traffic and the amount of time that it would take us to get out of the city from where we were, that we didn't have enough gas to idle our way out of Manhattan that day.
Yeah.
And so we stayed.
We did. We went out to look for food and beer. And I remember getting like, it wasn't like a 6-pack. It was because everyone seemed to have the same idea. By the time we got to the bodega, it was like we bought like 2 loose beers that were fucking warm already.
Yep. Yeah, because I think by that point it had already been like a couple hours.
Yeah. By the time we pieced everything together and we figured that we were going to be in there for a while, we were like, all right, let's get something. And I think we ended up with 2 warm beers and a bag of chips.
Uh-huh. I don't even remember if we had anything to eat, but I remember
meatballs at the client's house.
We got invited back to dinner at their house. So there's a big gap there. So we decided, at some point or another, it was still daylight out, and we had realized we weren't going anywhere. There was nothing to do. We didn't have enough cash to really, buy more beer, even if there was more. There was nothing we could do. We were just
right.
We were sort of just like, yeah, it's because ATMs weren't working, right. And it was, and that was the thing, is like, even if we had the money for gas pumps weren't pumping. There was nothing. Like, we couldn't achieve a thing, and so it was sort of like milling about the city to the point where it was like it just started getting boring, and I think I convinced you pretty quickly thereafter to walk down to like 30 something in Park to find Jen.
Yeah.
And then I further convinced you to walk up
Yeah.
the flight, like 30 something flights of stairs in her building.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still, to this day, I'm still astonished at how easy it was to gain access to a skyscraper in Manhattan.
Yeah. Yeah, we got in. I mean, there was no security whatsoever. I mean, we kind of just sashayed our way in, and you spoke to someone, and I think they were just confused, and you just said, let's go this way.
Well, so my whole thing is she works here. I can't get in touch with her. She's potentially still in the building. So let's go find her. And when we got to the building after a fairly long walk, it was like, 30, 40 blocks, something like that.
Yeah.
When we got to her building, obviously the elevators weren't running. And I remember like opening the front door, trying to open the front door. And like there was a guy, I don't know if he was like the dude at the front desk or whatever, but he was just like, oh, you can't come in. And I'm like, well, I'm looking for my girlfriend. And he says, yeah, well, we can't come in. And I'm like, have you guys searched all the floors? And they said, no, not yet. And I said, well, we can help you. And I remember convincing him that we could help him search the floors. And I probably said, I'm a firefighter. And he was like, oh, okay. And that was it. Like, I don't know that I had to say anything else. And sure enough, we climbed 30-something flights of stairs.
We did.
In
the dark.
And in the dark, we pounded on elevator doors and we yelled down hallways and nobody was there. And she wasn't there.
Nope. She was not.
And so we came back down. And then by this time it was like, I don't know, it was evening.
Yeah, it was getting dark.
It wasn't dark. It wasn't quite dark out yet, but it was getting dark. And then, I don't know, there's kind of a bit of a fog there, but I think you had said something like, we better go back and unplug everything.
Yeah, the thought was that if the power comes back on, there might be a surge, so let's go back and just at least unplug everything, and then we'll figure it out when they get power back.
So we walked our way back up to the job. So another 30, 40 blocks.
Yeah,
and
they let us
in,
and they fed us.
And they fed us. They gave us, it was like spaghetti. I don't even know how, but yeah, it was spaghetti and meatballs.
Yeah.
One of your children might have a head injury.
No, that's just them jumping.
They can jump in the house, huh? Oh.
It's just one of those things where it happens, and what are you gonna do? Can't make them unjump. That was a loud one.
Yeah. So they fed us spaghetti and meatballs. I remember on the way up there, we were walking up. I think it might have been Broadway, but I can't remember what street it was.
No, it was Park.
Was it Park?
Yeah.
The whole way?
The whole way.
This one's gonna have more editing in it than the others.
I'll working the mute button next time.
Oh, hey, how can you anticipate the jump? You won't know it until it happens.
That's true.
So I guess okay. So we walked all the way up Park, and I remember that I tried to start a riot, but it didn't work.
I remember
chanting. I remember chanting "riot, riot," and then I just got a bunch of dirty looks, and I gave up. We were different back then.
Yeah.
Because today, I think we actually could have gotten a riot going.
Yeah, no, I remember back then pretty vividly. People just out on the street playing cards, hanging out. Mm-hmm. The only real chaos was the traffic.
Yeah, and even then, there were people, civilians, good Samaritans, effectively, were just directing traffic, which was like the only thing that was helping.
Yeah, they were poorly, but
there were a couple. They were well. I mean, they weren't professional traffic directors.
No.
It's not like anybody went to school for traffic direction. Had experience for years as a traffic director.
You guys welders? Only backyard welding.
Oh, that
Same job.
Same job, same spot. So I remember walking back up. They fed us. I think they asked if we wanted to stay the night, and I think both of us were like, no.
Yeah, no, we were in consensus there. It's like, no, that's just too weird. Was Gladys still there?
I don't think she was still there, because I think it was their like the mother or like the grandmother or whatever was staying with them, and she's the one who made the food.
Yeah,
I think it's probably worth mentioning to anybody who might listen that these are extraordinarily wealthy people we're talking about.
Yes.
We're not talking about, we hung a TV in some dude's house. We installed the most expensive TV
at the time.
In one of the most expensive houses for one, ultra millionaire, billionaire kind of clients here. And after years of experience with these kinds of people, it was unusual for them to even offer us food, let alone to spend the night. So we were, I think, both surprised by that.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, oh, you are actually people, and that we appreciate you being people. The meatballs were good, if I remember.
Oh, they were, yeah.
Yeah. So then it got dark, and I remember sitting on the roof of the van at some point.
Yeah.
Listening to the radio.
Yeah.
And people had gathered around our van to also listen to the radio because we had a radio.
We had news.
We had information,
Yeah.
right? And so, I mean, thinking about that for a moment. This is 17 years ago now, and 17 years ago, there were no smartphones. There was no wireless internet communications system.
Nope.
There were payphones. There were cell phone bricks. And there was AM radio, and the only reason we had AM radio is because we had a van with enough battery to listen to the radio for a little bit so we could figure out what was going on. And we gathered a crowd, and simultaneously were able to see stars in Manhattan.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, what are all those things up in the sky that we've never seen before?
Yep.
Which was incredible. It was dark.
It was very dark.
It was very dark. Surprisingly dark. Like, I didn't think it could get that dark there.
Oh, when there's no light, it gets pretty dark.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I suppose you're right.
No problem.
So,
What you got there, Jen?
no, it's water,
Yeah,
straight water.
okay.
I didn't think we were doing the gin show this time.
Iron water?
Iron water.
Excellent.
Yeah. Sidebar, my heating system is a hydronic radiant floor heating system. It's a closed loop system. I put water into it,
Yeah.
and that's it. Water is just in it all the time, all year long. No water comes in, no water leaves unless there's a leak of some kind, which is a terrible thing. But there's a filter at the boiler that is designed to stop particulates from going through the boiler. And I have to, every month or so, I have to remove that filter and clean off all the iron particles that have accumulated on the filter, and then put the filter back in so I can get proper flow. And I used to just do this under the kitchen faucet, and just drain it out and whatever. But I started now doing it in a little plastic tub
Yeah.
with the same water. And I have at 3 cleanings now, I have accumulated enough iron that I can take a magnet and I can actually make like magnety shapes with it. That's how much iron is sitting in the water.
It's a lot of iron.
It's a lot of iron. And this is a system of water that has been closed. It was filled and closed basically 3 years ago, and that same water continues to release iron into the filter.
Huh.
Yeah, fascinating, isn't
How
it?
about that?
How about that? So then what? What happened next? So we're on the roof of the van. We're listening to the radio, gazing at the stars. Gathered a crowd. It's dark. It's hot. It was freaking hot.
It was hot. It was the middle of August. It's hot,
Middle of
humid.
August.
It's disgusting. It's New York.
Yep.
I think that was it, man. We just hung until I think we left the city about midnight. And it was a little after midnight when we decided to give it a go. and we
I want to. Well, you sure it wasn't later?
no,
I remember like it being like 3 o'clock in the morning.
no,
we
it
got
wasn't that
home.
late. I don't think it
Okay.
was that late. I remember being around midnight, maybe between midnight and 1.
Okay.
Maybe we may not have gotten home till 3,
Yeah.
but I think we may have. I'm trying to remember because we took Madison. I remember we took Madison all the way up to
Triborough.
the
didn't we?
Triborough because Lexington by the whatchamacallit, by the Queensboro was still a mess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if we walked up to Madison just to see what it looked like, and we saw that it was pretty damn clear, and we said, all right, let's give it a go.
Probably, because I also remember too not wanting to move the van if we didn't have to.
Right. But I think once we saw Madison, it was a clear shot. We said, meh, what's the worst thing that happened to you? Now I don't. Once we got out of the city, I don't remember the route we took because we had that big commercial truck. And the Triborough would have taken us right to the Grand Central unless we went into the Bronx. I don't remember if we did the Bronx or the Whitestone.
Were we in a commercial van?
Yeah, we were in the big truck, my old the big Chevy Express.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But that was a Mark's commercial van. Yeah. Okay. So for anybody who doesn't know, the things in New York, you cannot drive a commercial vehicle, no matter how small it is, on certain roads, which meant that your route in and out of anywhere was limited. So it's if the Long Island Expressway was closed, you could not get on the Grand Central. You had to wait it out or take some sort of back roads, Queens Boulevard or something like that.
Right.
I don't remember the route we took. I remember being on a highway at some point, and I think I almost want to say like we took the Grand Central anyway because we didn't care.
Yeah, I think you might be right. We may have just said, who's going to stop us for commercial plates when this is happening?
I remember getting back late. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. At the time, I was actually living with my grandparents for a few months, which was interesting. But I remember getting home and we hadn't eaten anything because there had been nothing to eat. We didn't have any money. Oh no, we had the meatballs, but after that, so now it's like several hours later.
Yeah.
There's nothing to eat. And I remember opening up the fridge, eating a cheese sandwich, and then taking a shower in the dark. And then I remember that you and I went to work the next morning.
We did.
And I remember that almost nobody else did.
Yeah.
And we were the only ones, I think, who were stuck in the city, except for like one or two people. Somebody else had a really bad story. Didn't we work with a guy who got like stuck on the subway or something?
Yes, I don't remember who it was though.
It was either the subway or the Long Island Railroad, like in the tunnel.
Yeah. I don't remember who.
And then they ended up,
but I remember. Yeah, I do remember that.
and he ended up catching a ride home with a UPS truck or something. I don't know if I'm mixing up stories, but yeah. And then the next day, I think I remember that we went to a job site. No job sites had power, but we went to a job site to install speakers.
Yes.
With one drill, one ladder, and I think we had like 5 or 6 guys.
Yes.
And it was the most inefficient speaker install day ever.
Because our boss could not fathom the idea of telling people, you know what, there's nothing to do, go home. We'll figure it out. Oh, there's 5 of you here? Well, let's all go put speakers in.
So we went and we put speakers in. And I remember at one, like, we took turns doing things, and like it was like, oh, I'll hand him the drill, and then we'll have the speaker here, and then I'll hand you the speaker, and then one guy will put one screw in and come down the ladder, and the next guy will take the drill and go back up, and we made a day of it, didn't we?
We did. We figured, well, if we're gonna work, we're gonna work the whole day and get paid.
Yeah, and we sure did. I think we installed like 5 pair of speaker.
Yeah.
And it took us a whole day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So stupid.
So stupid.
And we've been friends ever since.
And we've been friends ever since. Thanks for joining us on today's podcast.